Welcome. Another week, another episode.
We need to change the intro. We'll just cut that and then
Should we change it for 2020?
The beat drops on the intro.
I know it's just kind of hard.
I know, that's why I was like, I like the intro. I was joking.
I kind of like this song.
I was completely joking.
Maybe
we did that.
We should make but I mean like the talking over the beat maybe like if we freshen it up or say something different or whatever at the beginning.
I like that.
Or if we start doing the intro a little bit differently. Like I know some podcasts, they will start it out like talking and then they go back in, or maybe they say at the beginning, like in this episode, we cover boom, 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 boom. Then you have the music or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of like the little intros that you've been doing. Like the overview at the beginning. Like I don't even think you've been doing it intentionally.
Oh, during the episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
But during the
episode.
episode.
It's the same clip, dog.
No.
Same intro clip, bro. Every time.
This is when you hear, but you're not listening, though. Like the overview that you give. So maybe we will do that in the beginning so you can figure out kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I did that intentionally one of the last couple times when that happened. I don't remember which one it was, but I remember at the time I was thinking, well, let me tell them at the beginning, hey, this is what we're going to touch on. So then they listen to the end.
And we're going to touch on everything. So, Lex, you want to give me an intro about what we're doing today?
Let me look at these notes. Not prepared. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about time management. And, of course, we usually try to do like actionable type episodes. But this one is one where, it's like, okay, basic like time management. But it goes hand in hand with everything we talk about as far as productivity, efficiency, being a better you. And I feel like a lot of people do struggle with time. So we're going to talk about what that means, things we do to manage our time. Is it important? Is it not? And hopefully you'll get some ideas of ways you can assess yourself and where you stand with time management and make any necessary changes.
I love that. And it's also Get Your Shit Together December. So
yeah,
we're doing a series of episodes to help you and ourselves get our shit together. So we're set up for 2020. It's a year of vision. Let's make it happen. So is it necessary to manage your time?
I want to say that it's necessary to manage your time if you have any goals. Because what if, even like a monk, like a Tibetan monk or something may still need to manage their time because they probably have a time to pray, a time to do this, a time to meditate, right? Or for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. But I think that sometimes we imagine like no concept of time is like a freeing thing or kind of enlightenment or something like that. And so I'm kind of like in the middle of all of those things where if I didn't manage it at all, I don't know, would I just be floating?
Yeah, and I was about to say, I'm about to give a real Carlie answer. Time is a construct. Not real necessarily. It only has the meaning that it does because of what we give to it and how it's structured in society. But when I think about managing time, I think it's important to be intentional and to set time aside. But I don't know if it's in the traditional sense. So I guess I'm also with you, which is interesting because usually we're not necessarily together on things. So I do think that it's necessary to have intentions. And like you were talking about the monk, like if he or she is a woman monk, a monk.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know.
If y'all know, tweet me and let me know. Carlie Carbio on Twitter.
Sorry.
Random question of the day. But if there are certain things that you need to get done, like at some point you have to do those and you will have to rest. So it's figuring out how to do those things.
Yeah, and then we both say we're kind of in the middle of it. I'm going to just put this on you, I guess. But we find ourselves also being like, oh, I don't have enough time, or I ran out of time, or I got to do this, or you know what I mean? At the same time, we're stressed about certain things. So absolutely. We can't act like, it's cool to say like, oh, it's a construct. And it I agree with you, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I agree. But it's also like, so we always actually act like we need to manage our time better. So we don't feel the stress of crunch time all the time, or so we feel like we didn't waste our time. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the issue too, is like, do you feel a lot of time like you're wasting time?
Yeah. I wouldn't say a lot of times, but there are sometimes, like if I have a really productive day and then the next day is not, I'm like, damn, I wasted today. But I might have been doing things that I enjoyed at the moment.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So like we still talk about time in a way where we feel like we have to still be intentional about it. Even if you said, like, I enjoyed my time, maybe I wasn't working, but does that mean it was a waste? Not necessarily. I mean, no matter what you did, it might not have been a waste, but we do use that language, or we do feel guilty for that. I know I consistently think about, like, oh man, I like wasting my time or wasting my day. And it doesn't matter what I did. Like, I still kind of might feel like I could have did more with that time.
Do you ever have times where you don't feel like you could have did more?
Does that mean that I said, man, I did everything I could do today? Or does that mean like, oh, I was content because I got like a lot of stuff done? Because I feel like I always, I might not complain about it. I'm like, yeah, I did it good today. But it's still like I'm thinking about because of the time, like because of how I spent my time.
Yeah.
If that made sense, or if that answered your question.
A little bit. I just was thinking about it because you're like, if like I could have did more, or maybe wasting time and thinking about like it in that sense.
Oh, like when am I satisfied?
Exactly. Like when I button my...
Yeah, I do have a satisfaction with that for sure.
Oh, good. Good. Do you feel like you're good with time management? Or what does that even mean to you? Like when I say...
Yeah, because...
What does it mean, like for you when I say time management? What does that mean to you?
So for that question, to me, time management means being intentional about all the time that I'm spending, and what it's going towards in a way that it lines up with the things that I say I want to do.
I like that.
So I think if I'm feeling like I wasted my day, I'm feeling like I wasn't good with time management, maybe that day, typically. Because I probably, if I feel like I wasted the time, that means I had an expectation of how much stuff was going to happen or what was going to happen. And if I didn't get that done, it's always like, well, why? Because what did I get done, maybe? Or like that wasn't the best use of my time. So time management is maybe like what you're doing with that time. And making sure it lines up, I think.
Yeah. I have very similar views. The only change is like thinking of like how do you spend your time? So it's like spending money, right? Like am I investing my time in the things that I want to get the outcomes, and not even necessarily just work and productivity, but like resting and working out and spending time with friends. Like am I investing it because we have a finite amount of quote unquote time every day, right? So am I investing it in the ways that I want?
Well, are we supposed to think about it like that? Like we have a certain amount of time. Do you think that's appropriate?
No, but anytime I don't, like as a person, y'all know I'm not, well, if you haven't been listening to the podcast.
The opposite part of it too, where, like live every day like it was your last. And that's as if, if you didn't have time.
So herein lies the conundrum with that is I'm not a big planner. I don't really like those things. And anytime you say time management, I'm like, oh my God, another spreadsheet, another this. And I start to feel like, oh, I'm in a box. So that makes me feel like it's finite. But I do, in fact, enjoy like thinking about how I spend it, like investing it with like people and friends and self-development and things like that. Like if I have today and I spend it doing all the things that I wanted to do, like, and investing in those and building relationships, like I would be happy with that.
Yeah, so why are you not happy with that same thing, but if it was like mapped out?
No, I am. I just don't like the process of actually having to go through and map it. Like I don't enjoy that process at all.
Oh, that makes sense, I think. So do you feel like you're good with time management? Or you already said no, huh?
I'm better.
Or that you don't like it?
That's I don't like it. I'm okay. I'm a hard...
I love time management. I think I love it more than I'm... that's probably not giving myself enough credit though. Because I don't. When you asked first if I was good at it, there's something I would say and there's something maybe other people would say.
Okay, what would you say?
Because I would say I'm okay. I'm really good at the planning the time, but then I'm always. Let me not say always. I feel like I go back to my time and look like, dang, there was a few hours. Like I don't even know what happened.
I lost.
Like that's how I feel.
Okay.
Or I consistently, like, at the end of the day or week, still kind of, like, feel like, oh, man, like, I was supposed to did this and that, but it didn't happen.
What would other people say? Because you said it's different.
Literally everybody tells me how much I've impacted how they fucking manage their time. I'm like, oh, okay.
But
like, everybody's like, oh, I use Toggle, or I do this, or I started timing, or, like, a routine or schedule or whatever. And I guess, like, and those things, I did them / do them because I'm always kind of changing it to figure out what's the best fit. But, like, I did / do all those things, too. So, I don't know if that means I'm good with it if I don't feel like I got the result out of it that I imagine. Damn, I feel like I'm in a therapist session now.
Welcome to the couch.
Why do you feel like you have to do everything? That like goes back to the other episode, but yeah, it ties in because I think that's kind of what we're talking about is, like, should it matter that much, or how tight does your management of time need to be before it's like, am I just being a robot kind of, in life?
Exactly. And that's where I start to rebel because I'm like, I don't want to just like live and die by my schedule and by all these meetings on my phone. However, it's not helpful to not have those things. And so that's why I said I'm okay. Like, I'm getting better at time management. You have helped me a lot. Toggle, like the Passion Planner, all of those things have helped me immensely. But I think also just consciously like thinking about what I want and what I value and making sure that's how I spend my time. And that's been helping me a lot lately. So that's why I said I'm getting better. Like, I feel good about it. If we had talked about this a couple months ago, I'd have been like, I am trash. I'm not trash anymore. I'm actually pretty good about it. Except for today, I was struggling. But, here we are.
Yeah, like I still like listening to things like podcast episodes or, reading things about time management. And I think maybe time management is one of those things that self-help type people, as in like us, like people who like to consume that stuff, I think that's something we kind of get like addicted to as far as like, how can I be even more efficient? How can I be productive? Like, it's like, how much stuff do you need to read? You know what I mean? Like,
I think that's another form of procrastination, like over planning.
Yeah, but I think it's always something I'm interested in, like hearing, what's a different idea or way to do it or approach it or a routine but it's almost like, why do I keep needing a refresh to like spark me into, sticking to whatever routine or whatever? Because I've done things that not work, but then maybe I still didn't keep doing it.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to like, what does it even mean to be good at time management? Mm-hmm. And like, so you said some of it worked and some of it didn't. Like, how are you measuring success and what worked and what didn't?
Yeah, actually, because I guess it was my own fault if it didn't work. Because a lot of times I feel like we can look at systems or even a product or just something, and then you're like, man, this ain't working. But like you look and it's like, I was the one not working, not the routine or not the plan. It's not the time that's the enemy. It's probably you. So as I say that now, I'm like, dang, I think I just stopped doing stuff. Like, I'll do some things and be like, man, this is really working. And for whatever reason, like maybe I just don't keep doing it. Yeah, that's interesting. But to me, the success of it and how I would measure if I'm good at time management is, I think, checking things off a list.
Yeah.
Is that not good?
I think that's objective. Like, I can't
maybe
tell
it
you
should
what's
be
good
to be satisfied with how you spent your time if you look back at the week.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. That's
which the two can kind of like
coexist.
They can kind of go together. It's like, man, I got 3 out of these 5 things done. That's more than half.
Yeah, and then
is it? Yeah, it is more than half. Beavis and Butthead.
God, he's struggling today.
Gotta do some quick math right there, boy.
Carry the one. Wow. Yeah, it's. Are you satisfied with how you spent it? For me, it's not. It can't always be about checking stuff off on the list because I get overzealous and put a whole bunch of things on a list that wouldn't make sense to cross off, like inevitably with the amount of time to get it done. But at the end of the week, I did the majority of the things that I set out to do and feel good about it. Ooh.
You know what point that brings us to, though? That the first step in time management should probably be assessing how long you spend to do certain things so that when we do manage our time, it's accurate.
One of the biggest takeaways I have from 10X was the fact that it takes me so much longer to do things than I thought that it did.
Man, golly. That's why it'd be like every day you'd be like, okay, like I could do that. It'd be an email, 2 hours of time instead of you thought that was going to be 30 minutes.
Or 5, because I clearly thought that was going to, because I'm a robot and that was going to work out.
Right.
But yeah, so I have had to start, spacing those things out, but also prioritizing, right? Like thinking through. So I do think the first step is thinking through how long it actually takes you to do things. Because if you're like, okay, I'm only going to spend an hour at the gym, but you have to drive there. You get ready, you cool down.
Yeah, that too.
If it was a hard workout, you might sit there for 5 minutes in your car like, sheesh, and then go home, shower. If you start feeling the music or whatever, you might existential crises in the shower. You might sit there for another 5 minutes, and then by the time you know it, 2 hours for something that you planned for 1 hour. And that starts cutting into all the other time.
I'm giving her all these because that's exactly a thing that I had to get over personally was on the Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays that I go to the gym. I had to get over feeling always like, oh, I'm starting my day so late because it'll be like 7 that I'm in the gym, but by the time it takes me like 45 minutes to get back or then shower, then maybe I made some coffee, maybe I sit down or whatever, then take a shower, then like my hour to get ready or whatever it is, like it's like, shoot, it's 11 o'clock or it's 12 o'clock. And then that energy of that kind of would mess me up a little bit to where I feel rushed. And so with my time management, I don't ever want to feel like I'm necessarily like rushing, or I want to feel okay with that. But over time, what I realized, because I was like, okay, paying attention to like, well, if I go to the gym at 7, I'm really not going to start till 11. I kind of just had to accept that at some point to where I started feeling better about it. And I changed my relationship with just how I felt with how much time went into that. And then I had to kind of think like, all right, is it worth it for me to do this? Sure. But I just know on my Tuesdays, then I actually got excited because I was like, oh, I could start like at 7 or 8. And so I can balance this all out. Like it doesn't have to be, oh, if I didn't get so much done by this time, like it's a wrap for me. Like each day is unique. I'm claiming it how it is and being like, okay, cool. Like now I know how to schedule appropriately.
Yeah. And I love that. Like it gives you the opportunity to change your mindset on how things can be, but also be flexible with yourself. So if you know you are working out like in the mornings, like maybe you do start a little bit later, but you just have to be more concentrated and more focused on those days and then getting up a little bit earlier. And I think that like you sharing that story with me helped me a lot because being in an untraditional career and entrepreneur is like my days are all over the place when I get started. And so if I train at the gym in the morning, I'm training clients at 5, 6, maybe 7. So I'm done with them. I still need a little bit of time to relax and then I'll go work out. And then I'm like, damn, it's 1 o'clock.
Right. And that time to decompress, like I think we always underestimate that, but I think that's where those few hours of like missing time will be at, because if I did kind of get a few hours of work done, I start sitting down for a minute or, in between going to places or meeting or whatever, like, yeah, I need to give myself a little time to like kind of chill out a little bit and let my brain relax sometimes. And sometimes you just need a little bit extra. Like you're not going to go through like from this task to this task to this task to this task to this task, lunch 20 minutes, this task. Like it shouldn't necessarily look like that.
I tried to do that yesterday. Like I got to the gym. I was like, okay, I'm going to get there at this time. I'm going to work out for an hour. I have 10 minutes. Then I have a client. Then I have classes. And I got there and I was like, I'm just going to sit in the car and meditate. So I meditated for 10 minutes and I took a cool little 8-minute nap. And then I woke up and went in the gym and just like stretched, and didn't work out before my classes. But I felt so much more refreshed than had I came in and like forced myself to do these things. Like I was able to get into the flow instead of like feeling crunched. Like, oh man, now I only have 30 minutes for a workout instead of an hour, and feeling all stressed. Like all these boundaries arbitrary boundaries that I'm putting on myself.
So then maybe for some people, you might need a tighter structure or you might set it up that way. And I think that would be fine. But again, first step to kind of go back to steps, I would say is to understand how you're spending your time. So we've talked about this before, and it probably was like at one of the earlier episodes that we started last year. So if you haven't listened to those, go back to some of the first ones. But I remember we talked about tracking your time and using things like Toggle, using the stopwatch on your phone or whatever. When I'm doing work, like I'm using FreshBooks to track how much time I'm actually spending. Obviously, if you're billing people, like you should probably be tracking that time. But outside of that, like how much time does it take to get to places, to do this appointment for real? How long does it take to get back? How long does it take you to get ready? And just understanding where your time goes, not even necessarily with the facts of how can I change this or make this shorter or take less time or do more here, but just see where it is. That way it's like you can arrange it maybe better without changing how much time you're spending on certain things.
Yeah, and I love that. For me, I really like writing things down by hand, so I put everything in my actual like physical planner. And then that also helps me get a bird's eye view of what my entire week looks like, so I can kind of move things around. So I'm like, oh man, if I'm super slammed with meetings this morning, maybe I don't go to the gym early, maybe I go that afternoon. And it allows me that flexibility for that.
So knowing how long stuff kind of takes, and then that lets you take those blocks, move them around how you need to, however works for you. But also, too, I would say now paying attention to what types of activities or what things you can maybe switch around so that you're making sure you're prioritizing your time on the most important things. And I think that's my biggest issue, that I might be busy and it may be stuff that needs to get done, like for sure, but I really should have started over here, or I should have did maybe something that was more important that would be helpful long term. So for me, if I'm prioritizing, I think that gives me more time later than like if I'm moving all around and now I got to come back and rush because I didn't do that thing and I should have did that thing. That was the most important one. So making sure that you lay it out the right way, I think would be important.
And I've read a lot of articles and books about time management because, like she said earlier, that's just kind of stuff we enjoy. But it always says start with the hardest task first so you can knock it out of the way. And for me, I'm like, yeah, like I did that. So I kind of like carries me that energy into other stuff, which is good for the day. So if you have something you're trying to avoid, and that also has a deadline, knock that shit out first.
Yep.
Don't play yourself.
And another awareness thing would be to pay attention to what distracts you. And pay attention to what is taking you away from whatever you have planned out at that time. So just as you're saying, all right, this is how much time it takes me to do this task, pay attention to, well, how many times did I pick my phone up? Or how many times did I go do something else? Or whatever it may be. So you can now think about what things can you minimize or set time for. Like with social media, I found the best way for me to manage the time is to schedule the time to check it. Because if I said, today, all right, I'm not going to pick up my phone for whatever reason. Like, I'm still, like, picking it up. But if I give myself a time to say, all right, I can pick it up at 10, then I can pick it up at 11:30, then I can check it at 12:30. I had my Post-it note right there. I was working when I got the urge because obviously I kept picking my phone up or doing it. And I'm like, nah, I can't check it yet. I'll just wait till 10:30. And then what happens is when I pick my phone up at 10:30, you look at Twitter, scroll. I don't have shit to say. Okay, cool. Like, you're like, damn, like, there's nothing to even really be doing here. So it's like, I don't put it. Once I put it down, it's like, I can't check it till 12:30, but it's like, there's nothing to do there. So you saw some things, you laughed at a joke, put the phone down, and then I'm like, I'm back to work. And then so the worst part actually was when I was thinking of stuff, or if I'm listening to Drake, something, I'm like, well, I want to tweet that. But it's like, I can't pick it up right now. But it also kept me from like wasting time putting things out. Because putting them out, now people respond to you. Now you want to check the notifications or whatever, you know? So just understanding that, hey, it's better if I tweet early or tweet later when I'm going to actually sit and engage with it. But things like that and changing the relationship with like giving yourself the time to do those fun things or those things that can be more like a treat instead of it letting it be a distraction is helpful.
Exactly. And I think we beat ourselves up a lot over those things. Like, oh, man, I shouldn't be on social media at all today. It's not bad. It's just bad in excess.
Dog, it's bad when we have like 5 hours of screen time. And I'm like, I didn't even log, you know what I mean? That much of time.
I don't even want to tell you how much screen time I have.
That's where it's funny when it's like, bro, that was a lot of time when you look at it.
Yeah, like, what am I doing on my phone for that many? It's almost like a part-time job or a full-time job, depending on what day it is.
Yeah, and I mean, these things are created to hook you and to distract you. And so I think that's a very important relationship to understand. Other distractions can be the, like, other procrastinations of the planning can be another distraction, the overthinking a thing. If you work at home or somewhere where you kind of have the freedom to be anywhere, like maybe you start moving around too much or going places, like it's just, what are those little things that just either turn into a time suck? Or for me, if it distracts me enough, then I'll be like, oh, I'm not really in the mood anymore to do whatever I was doing. And so, you know, you just kind of dwindle out. Like, it's like tap out for the day.
I think, and I love that. I think for me, something that's helped me astronomically with my time management and feeling better about it is making sure that I set aside a little bit of time in the morning for my stuff, like my personal things. If that's writing in my journal, if it's reading a book, if it's doing a devotional, literally whatever my thing is, breathing, meditating. If I set aside a little bit of time in the morning, I'll feel better going into my other tasks and other things that I'm doing. Because if not, I'm a little bit salty if I wake up and go to work and start doing all these things for other people and clients and all this. And at the end of the day, I was like, okay, cool. Finally, I'm going to read and do this. And now I'm too tired. And now I haven't done anything for myself. Like, I haven't given myself a chance to unwind or think through things. And so I'm frustrated. And so the next morning I wake up more frustrated. And so by giving myself just those moments in the morning, that's been so helpful for me.
So for you, order is important in your time management. So what are some ways that you've tried to manage it and like what has and hasn't worked for you?
So being a person who is anti-disestablishmentarianism, anti about a super planning and super rigid. Like I've been like, okay, well, I'm not going to plan that much at all and just let myself flow. And that shot me in the foot and I missed a lot of deadlines. Then I started getting stressed out about missing deadlines.
But what did that look like technically? Like you just didn't write anything down?
Not really, bro. I don't know how I made
long?
it.
Like what's the details?
I don't know
dog?
how, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know how I made it through college, undergrad, and grad
this
school.
was in college.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I would always try to overplan. So first I tried like over planning because I was like, okay, well if I know exactly what time and I do this and I leave from here and I hated it, and then so I was like, well let me just throw this thing out the window, and then I didn't have any type of schedule and I made it, but I was always stressed because I would always be like, oh shit, I forgot I had a meeting today at 12. Oh, it's 11:30. I have to run and do this. I really don't know how I made it through some of the things that I did without failing super, super miserably. And then, so too far on the spectrum has not worked for me at all, either end, like being too loose with boundaries or too structured. So too rigid or too loose of a structure have messed me up immensely. So I've had to figure out what that looks like. Like I can be rigid on like having my time in the morning and making sure I, set things for sure that I'm going to make throughout the week, but kind of loose with some of that in between time so that those hours that we talk about that get lost a little bit during the day, like maybe I do have an hour that's not necessarily accounted for that allows me that freedom that I need to feel okay and to not feel too suffocated by boundaries and by all these little time blocks, but that also might give me a little bit more time on the front end or the back end of things that I'm working on.
Okay, so you give yourself the buffer room in your time management. Okay.
That's been helpful, and that makes, like I said, it gives me my little freedom, flow, I don't want to schedule type thing.
I feel like I always get a little something from every different tool or approach that I try, and then I've used all that to kind of create something that is working for me right now. Who knows how long I'll keep doing it that way. But something that I used to do more often, and this was when I was more in the like discovery of how I'm using my time, was to not just time myself, but when I'm now ready to do my time management, what I would do is set how much time I'm going to work on stuff, knowing that, hey, when this timer goes off in an hour or in 30 minutes or an hour and a half, that's when I stop. Whether I'm like done or not done, but just making sure it doesn't let me just now let something take over too much time. But also that's helpful because it makes me really pinpoint focus during that time because I know I have an hour and a half right now.
Yeah.
So it's helpful in those two ways. So that's something. And I would use egg timer on my computer. I think it's egg.timer. And you can say egg.timer /30 or 60. And on your big computer screen, it'll be a countdown. And it just goes 30, 29. So then I open up another tab and do whatever I'm doing. But then when it's over, it goes, bam, bam, time expired. So I'm like, oh, wrap up what I'm doing, stop, and then what's next on my list. So giving myself a certain amount of time is helpful. Some other things that are helpful for me, things that did not work for me, again, it's kind of my fault, but it's hard to get away from that idea like, man, all successful people probably up at 4 a.m. and like the getting up super early.
Yeah.
It's like I've always wanted to be that person, but I just wasn't really. And I kept trying to do that. I kept trying to like 3:45 wake up or 6 wake up. And I can never quite be like super consistent. Like every day I'm waking up and just starting like that. And so that was kind of something I learned to just be kind with myself about and to pay more attention to the fact that I have all day to do what I want. So whenever I wake up or whatever, like I'll be fine. And I go to sleep now at like 9:30. So like now I don't really have that issue where I'm usually kind of awake early, even if I'm not starting yet. So kind of just giving myself the flexibility, like you were talking about, Carlie, is helpful. But now, similar to what you said, what works the best for me is to order what I need to get done and putting myself first and my biz dev first, then clients, and then projects outside of that. And so that way, if I at least touch those things in that order, I feel like my progress is more exponential than if I'm doing everybody else's stuff first before mine.
I love that. And something that just building upon what both of us have mentioned with this is I put time, like I bake in time in the week to do projects that I care about that don't have anything to do with like my routine or this. Like it's an hour where I can just paint or do whatever, something creative, or to stretch and foam roll and, you know, try different yoga poses and do different things because that's what's important to me. But if I set it aside, like I always make sure to honor that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where I fall and how loosely structured I am with time or how tight I am with it because I'm not sure what the comparison would be. And maybe there isn't a comparison, but I feels like I'm structured, but it also feels like within the certain amount of structure is kind of lax and kind of free to just make sure I'm doing something within this area, doing something within, you know, this field or this part of my life. So
yeah,
I just keep it kind of in the middle.
And
when you try to do too much, it's like it hurts more when you don't stick to it, I think.
Exactly. And it gets stressed. Like I get overwhelmed. Yeah. Like I'll get stressed out and that'll make me just not do anything, which is a great response to that. Exactly. Yep. Then it turns into feeling guilty the next day, which is this whole thing. But if you don't know where to get started, I would say do it like a time journal. Literally just one day, write down how long things take and write down what you're doing all day. And when you sit back and look at it, it's like, holy shit, like what was I doing all day? Like I checked my phone that many times, or even looking at your screen time. Like I was on the phone for 8 hours today. Like what am I doing with my life? And that'll help you kind of assess, like if you feel like you're not having enough hours or you're not paying attention to yourself and to your creative projects and to all the things that you need to, like making sure that you write that down and look at it.
Yeah. And once you're more aware, I would say to not try to, I'm going to deactivate Twitter for the week or like, try to go too hard with that. It's just now when you pick your phone up, just think about it a little bit more like, is this what I need to be doing? And let it kind of naturally grow to at least the awareness of you recognizing how much you're doing a thing, or you recognizing that I'm not spending my time as well right now, or you recognizing that I need to change my routine or whatever it is. And then you can slowly start to make those changes.
And have fun with it. Find what works with you. Try different things. Maybe you are a morning person. Maybe you're not. Maybe timing works, maybe it doesn't, but try things. I would love to hear like any tips or tricks or things that you have that might have worked for you. Or if you try any of the things that Alexi has talked about, let us know how they work for you, or maybe none of them do. I don't know. I'd like to hear some feedback because I think it's interesting how different tools work for different people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I want to be like, time doesn't really matter. And you really should feel comfortable with, just what you're doing, like when you're doing it during the day. But the thing about time management for me is that if I didn't have any of it, I feel like that means I don't have any direction right now. Like nothing is urgent or that I'm thinking about working towards. If I'm just kind of cruising as I go and doing what I want. And, there are things that you're like, man, I wish I got that done, or I wanted to get that done. And if you're just kind of cruising through, I feel like too much time goes by.
Or does it?
Oh, yeah.
But that's, I agree. I think it's just feeling good about it and not judging yourself as much. Like if you're not happy with how it is, assess it and change it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this whole knockdown, drag out with yourself and feeling bad and cutting off friends and doing everything. It's just figuring out how to maneuver in life and making yourself happy and making sure all your shit gets done.
Pretty much.
Dun, 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 dun.
This week, I want to shout out Craig Stokes. He is from North Carolina. He's part of the A&T fam that I'm not a part of. Let me actually add that in there because it sounded like I was repping for y'all. But a lot of my friends went to A&T. Yeah, they're everywhere. Any city I lived in, I ended up hanging out with them. But Craig Stokes, beautiful family. He put on Instagram that he's opening a Chick-Fil-A in LA. So I guess his family's coming out here. They're opening that up for 2020. I already hit him on the DMs like I'm going to get that spicy every other week. And look, and low-key, I ain't going to lie. Low-key, when I was like, haha, yeah, I'm going to be there every week for that spicy, I thought he was going to be like, oh, yeah, I got you. I'm not going to lie. But he was like, yeah, that joint does hit. And I was like, yep, I'm going to support y'all. Either way, like, I'm going to be in there. I'm going to spend my money. But I was like, damn, I was going to get a coupon. Anyway, when y'all open, I got to find out where they at. But, yeah, I think that's pretty cool to, be a part of something like that, especially in LA where there's not that many of them in certain areas, too. So,
congratulations. Yeah. Y'all check them out.
Yeah, and I have a question.
Get it.
And so our question of the week too for you guys and for us is, Carlie, what do you need to spend more time on?
Ooh, I need to spend more time creating. Like in my head, I'm like cooking. I was going to say on deliciousness, which is cooking. But also like just painting, just dancing, doing things that feel good. Art days with friends. Like that's what I would say.
So you're going to add more time on your planner for that? That's what that looks like? Because you said you add that in there.
I do. So probably adding more. Like I want to make sure I go to at least one dance class a month, which is not too much to ask. Doing things like that more intentionally, like with that, and like maybe having one art day a month, like type things. What about you?
Okay. One of the things I should spend, or I want to spend more time on, is connecting with other business owners, and not necessarily business owners, but like, not saying like just not friends, but like people that for like work days and, for sharing of ideas and things like that.
Yeah.
Outside of just like my phone combos and my friends that I see, but more with fresh networking faces around, people that I can connect with on projects or work.
Oh, I like that. Also, and there's a lot of creativity in that too. Mm-hmm. Anything else? That's it. Would love to hear y'all's thoughts on time management.
And we kept it tight with the time, 30 minutes.
You're welcome.
Right.
You're welcome.
Now go spend your time wisely. Bye.
Bye.